Sup guys, it's your boy Justin here with another graphic novel review. Today we're reviewing Dungeons and Dragons Forgotten Realms: The Legend of Drizzt, which is an omnibus that collects three series based off the first three books and the Legend of Drizzt saga, I guess, by R.A. Salvatore. The first one being Homeland, the second one being Sojourn. Or was it the third one, Sojourn? Let me double check. Exile was the second one, and Sojourn was the third one. The first one was Homeland. Yeah, so these are like 9 issues. Oh my god, I thought this was like, I thought this was way more than 9 issues. So I think this graphic novel originally came out in 2011, which would explain the price. This was published by IDW. So yeah, Legend, for people who don't know who Drizzt is basically everybody's favorite dark elf drow, which is based off the Forgotten Realms setting from not Final Fantasy, from Dungeons and Dragons. Sorry, I'm just gonna make this a quick review because it's the thing where I'm like, because I first got introduced to Drizzt through Thousand Orcs, which I forget which book that was. But basically, that was my first introduction to Drizzt, and I saw this graphic novel, so I bought it. And I was wondering, while reading this, which is written by Andrew Daub and with art by Tim Seeley, I was wondering, okay, why didn't I go out and buy more Legend of Drizzt books? Because this is actually pretty enjoyable. And then I got to the end, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's why. Oh my god. So yeah, basically, the story is basically Drizzt is born like to a noble dark elf family, and who's actually kind of a good guy. But the problem is the dark elves are evil. They live in a matriarchal society where they worship an evil spider goddess called Lolith, to the point where every house has to sacrifice the third son to their evil goddess, which would have been Drizzt, but because his brother, who was the second born, killed his older brother, Drizzt got to survive. So yeah, basically what happens is that there's how houses gain rank is by house warfare, wiping out other houses. And the day that Drizzt was born, they wiped out another dark elf house, who one of them survived and assumed the identity of the assassin, right? And yeah, basically the first book is basically explaining the Underdark, which is where the dark elves live, which is underground, which is basically they live underground, of course. And like the dark elves are evil. They have to wipe out, they have night raids where they wipe out surface dwellers, which are like elves here. And here's a scene where dark elves are scared shitless of the sun, but like Drizzt, because he's a good guy, because he's basically Goku from Dragon Ball Z, he's okay. He's not, in my opinion, Razor Fist is wrong. He's not an Elric clone. He's basically like a fantasy version of Goku from Dragon Ball Z. But instead of being born retarded, and that's why he's good. He's a good guy. Drizzt is a good guy because his dad, who was the weapon master of his house, which he spent most of his life not even knowing his dad was his dad, trained him to be a good guy. Which there's Drizzt's first companion. So yeah, the first book is basically we're getting introduced to the world of the Dark Elves, and Drizzt realizing, yeah, his the dark elves are evil. I don't want to be a dark elf anymore. So he gets exiled, and his mother has to basically have him killed because Drizzt's existence makes her house look bad, and it displeases their god, and she's an evil cleric, right? So she has to appease her god, so she has to send people after her son. So that's like the second book. That's like the second book, which is this is mostly the first book. This is the second book. Yeah, after this, this gets very boring, because like, right, because mostly like the first two arcs are good, because like Drizzt is in exile in the second book. He befriends the I forget what these are called. They're basically called dark gnomes, and he becomes friends with this guy, who was a gnome who he's during a patrol. They came upon this gnome party, and he saved this guy's life. But in exchange, but for him to have the other dark elves spare him, they had to cut his hands off as like a warning to the other gnomes. But he got like magic, hammer and pickaxe. Which another companion is this hook horror, who's actually a polymorph. I forget what they're called. Peck. Which, by the way, they ruined mind flayers in this book. They make mind flayers look super weak, right? But like the first two arcs is good. This is the one. This is the book that this third arc sucked, by the way, where Drizzt is finally on the surface. He goes from place to base, like wandering, because nobody will accept him because he's a dark elf, because dark elves are mostly evil. But despite the fact that Drizzt knows dark elves are evil, so it kind of makes sense why nobody would trust him. He still bitches and complains about it constantly. So that's like the one woke element of the book. But yeah, so like there's this like Drizzt is creepily watching this like farmers, right, and they find out about him, and there have been people who have been getting murdered in this region by two Barghest, which are these demons. And the Barghest and their quickling henchman decides to frame Drizzt. And here's where we get to the antagonist of this book, Roddy McGristle, who's a tracker, who is the John Wick of this book, who's actually a good guy, but because I sympathize with this guy a lot, because he basically it makes sense for him to think, oh yeah, Drizzt is a bad guy. And in his first encounter with Drizzt, where it makes sense for him to attack Drizzt, because everybody thinks this guy killed a whole family of farmers. What happens? Drizzt kills this guy's dog. Doesn't even try to talk his way out of it. Drizzt kills this guy's dog. Right, and in the fight, this guy loses like an ear and like gets fucked up. So the entire book is this guy trying to get revenge on Drizzt. So and like Drizzt like kills the two Barghest, avenging like the farmer's family, and then like a band of adventurers go after Drizzt, only for Drizzt to, in the shadows, is able to leave evidence to prove that he wasn't guilty, but Roddy McGristle is still going after him, right, because he wants revenge for his dog, right. And then there's a part of the book where McGristle teams up with this army of orcs to go after Drizzt, and Drizzt this old ranger who teaches Drizzt how to become a ranger. And Drizzt finally finds a goddess he actually wants to worship, which is a unicorn called Miliki, who's like the goddess of nature, which is super lame. Super lame. And then here's the creepy part of the book. Near the end of the book, he goes to the Icewind Dale or some shit, and he befriends this little girl called Canterbury, who's being raised by dwarves. And Canterbury is this little girl. In the book, the first Legend of Drizzt book I read, she's a grown-up and part of Drizzt's adventure, and their boyfriend and girlfriend, right? So, in this book, I found that he actually met Canterbury back when she was a kid. So that's very fucking creepy as fuck, in my opinion. Okay? But yeah, here's the scene where, like, you know, Roddy McGristle finally, 6 years later, finally confronts, you know, Drizzt, and he beats the shit out of Roddy McGristle. And Roddy McGristle doesn't like Roddy McGristle gets punished by the dwarf, who is the Canterbury's adopted father, because Roddy McGristle didn't like the fact that Roddy McGristle knew that the girl was lying and followed her to Drizzt, and because, you know, it kind of make, like, I kind of understand why this guy would be angry at this guy, because he's threatening his adopted daughter. But how does he punish Roddy? He chops off one of his dog's legs. And that's how the book ends. And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? If you didn't hear my dog bark, I am a dog owner, okay? So I'm like, oh my god. So the dude doesn't get his revenge. Roddy McGristle doesn't get his revenge. And his dog gets punished for his deed. It's like, are you fucked? Like, this is bullshit. So what did I think about this book? The first two stories were good. The last story kind of sucked. I mean, it was good until, like, the end. And I could look past the dog murder, okay? Even though, like, Drizzt is a huge hypocrite, because he killed, like, Guinevere, his pet panther, gets killed. And Guinevere can't really die because she's an astral projection, right? She's a magical beast. She can't die. She just goes back to the astral plane. He kills a monster for killing his dog, right? He goes into, like, a berserker rage for that. For killing his panther, not his dog, obviously. So, the fact that he can't sympathize at all with this guy tells me, that, like, he just thinks Roddy's after him because basically, he doesn't like that, you know, Drizzt is a dark elf. So, he basically prejudiced, right? So it's like, what? No, because you killed his dog, you fucking asshole. Oh my god. And yeah, so I don't know. I did not like this book. It was good until, like, the last 3 issues. Like, you know. So yeah. 6 out of 10. Fuck you, Drizzt. I almost bought his miniature the other day. Everyone was gonna pee and everything, but fuck you. Bye. Ah, fuck. Stupid thing won't stop filming.